Hello and welcome to Simple Cryptocurrency Videocasts. My name is Claudio and this is Cryptochain, the channel where I do cryptocurrency news, reviews, demos, interviews, and blockchain games reviews. And as you know, sometimes I even talk about trading, even though I'm not so good at trading and I'm still learning. And this is why I bring these experts on. And one of them is actually Schyler, and he goes by the YouTube channel name of Crypto Hippo. And I've got him with me today to discuss Elliott Wave, which he actually specializes in. So Schyler, welcome to this interview, and if you could please introduce yourself to the guest.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on this channel. I'm looking forward to it and diving into this. So my name is Schyler. I do go by the name Crypto Hippo, and I specialize in Elliott Wave trading of the crypto markets. I do live streams on a daily basis. Starting at 9 a.m., I do a morning update, and then in the afternoons at 4 p.m., I live stream and do a recap on that morning video, make sure that we're on targets, readjust targets, and so forth, and show you trade setups of how I'm looking to trade the markets and my positions.
Wow, that's cool. And is that your full-time thing then, your full-time job?
It is. I do this full-time, and I've been doing it full-time now for about a year.
Wow, pretty good. So it must work out for you then. Pretty decent. Now, so for the first thing now that we want to know is when did you first hear about cryptocurrencies and why did you choose to trade cryptocurrencies and not stocks or something else like other traders?
Yeah, right. The volatility, right? That's number one. That's why I love it. I first heard about it. Let's see. In 2012, my brother tried to get me to buy Bitcoin, and I didn't buy into it at that time. And obviously total regret there, right? And and so, but when I was working in 2015, I was doing a network marketing company for Primerica, which is a financial services company at the time. And so I was really diving into trying to work to get my securities license, become a financial advisor. And that's when I met a gentleman that was very wealthy in this space. And he told me, he kind of nerded out with me for a good, 15, 20 minutes before a meeting. And he said, you've got to get in on Ethereum. And at the time, we were coming up right up on about 2017 that I've been doing this. And when I jumped into that with him, he told me about Ethereum. It was at $16.
Wow.
So, and by the time I could connect my bank account to Coinbase to go purchase Ethereum, it had gone all the way up to $33.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh man, I need to get in on this. And so I just started dumping money into it. My 33 turned into 66, and I dumped the rest of about $600 into it at that time. I had a total of $800 into it. I didn't know a whole lot of what it was, risk what you can lose, right? Was kind of the mentality of it.
Yeah.
But over the course of that 7 months, following that, I had taken $800 and turned it into $30,000. And It was just, obviously at that point during that whole time period, I was just nerding out. I was falling asleep with the laptop on my belly at night, trading, waking up to alarms, switching coins around, finding what the new hype was. It was a very intense and just, a big addiction with it really at the time.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So you did start in 2017 then pretty much, even though you heard about it earlier. Like I first heard about it around 2016, but I just chose to ignore it. And that's the thing, somebody told me about it and I was like, no, this must be a scam. I didn't even look into it, to be honest. It was just like, it sounded a bit weird, And it's weird because I'm actually a database developer, so you'd think that an IT guy would be interested in these sort of things, But anyway, I basically started in September 2017 myself. So I managed to get in just before that big pump basically, but I didn't go heavy, to be honest. It was just like yourself, a couple of $100 just to test it out on Coinbase, the typical thing that many people did. But I really looked into alts, for example, in January 2018. That's when I actually started after the market crash. So in a way it was a good thing because that's when I started looking into it and I learned more about alts. And then later on during that year, I opened my YouTube channel as well. So kind of something similar. So I actually got you into the YouTube channel.
And what actually got me into YouTube?
Yeah.
At the time I was, I don't know if there was any one specific thing that honestly got me into YouTube, other than the fact that I got really good at trading and I just loved it. And the videos that I was watching of other people trading, I just felt that I could simplify it better for people and just be more transparent. I felt like people were getting the very basic knowledge out there. Like basic information is being given out, but not really how to connect the dots and how to pull it all together. And so that's really what I wanted to show people. And so my educational videos, I really focus on taking it beyond the basics. Like I give you the basics that just about anybody else will give you, but then I take it one step further and I show you how to actually apply it and connect it, which just takes it to a more advanced level. So that's honestly what got me into it. Was I really just wanted to bring that value to people, because it took me forever to figure it out, and a lot of courses and everything. And I was trading and everything before I got into crypto, with traditional markets, and I would, use technical analysis and chart the S&P 500 and so forth and track that. And I had 401ks, and, all from about 2012 is really where I kind of slowly picked up over the last 7 years, basically, of going into the whole finance world. And I just got a big passion for it, man. I love it.
Nice. And how do you actually deal, because we're going to be talking about Elliott Wave in particular, but how do you actually deal with losses? Because I'm sure like with, every trader deals with these, like you've got good days and bad days. So how do you actually manage those bad days, and how do they impact you considering you do this for a living?
Yeah, right. I'd say the biggest thing is really psychology. The people that are most self-aware probably do the best with trading, from my own personal experience. And so one thing that I actually realized with myself when I first started really trading larger amounts of money and so forth is that I was really, really conservative. Yeah. And so I hated taking a loss. And because of that, I would get out of positions and profit, but miss out on a lot of profits too. Okay. And so you find out with yourself what your style is. Some people are big gamblers. Yeah. And so they don't mind taking a loss, and they'll take more of them because they see it more as gambling. Whereas with me and my trading strategy, it's more of an art form and a technical drawing. For me, it's a strategy. And so the way that I handle losses is I just recognize the fact that with Elliott Wave, there's always going to be multiple counts. And you're going to have a bull count and a bear count. And I'm going to take my odds and the higher probability and place it on one count over the other. And then I'm going to recognize when that count is invalidated. And I can usually get out of positions prior to a stop loss because I can recognize it beforehand. And so that for me minimizes my risk a lot. And it makes me okay to accepting losses, because then I just realize, well, this is the other count. Let's move in that direction now. And so I'm prepared for both scenarios.
No, that's really good. A really good explanation. Thanks for that. And actually, the other thing that I'm curious about just before we start looking at the graph is how low do you set your stop losses? And also, when is your take profit? Because there are certain traders that have them as specific percentages and they take out, like, say, chunks in 25% and stuff like that. So how do you do it? Like, what's your strategy?
Yeah, so most of my videos are focused more on day trading. So because I do daily videos, you're going to see me work in smaller time frames and work on projections that are more short-term to mid-term. And so 25% swings, things like that, are more so I end up trading throughout that 25% swing rather than waiting for the whole thing to play out.
Makes sense.
So for me personally, my stop loss, I won't risk any more than 1% of my entire portfolio capital on any one trade. So in other words, if I'm trading with $30,000, I will not accept any more than a 1%, so $300 loss on any one trade. So if I'm only trading a $10,000 position or a $20,000 position, then I can have my stop loss as far as 3% down on a $10,000 position or 2% down on a $20,000 position. And so the math kind of fluctuates with the position size that I'm taking. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does, definitely. But then also comes the question with the liquidity, because that would mean that you can only trade on liquid markets. Because, for example, I like to trade Ontology on the day trade, sometimes for scalping. And what I find with it is that it's not liquid enough. And if you want to sell, or if your stop loss gets triggered, then you're really dumping the price, or you just get caught out and it doesn't fill completely at your set price. So that's a bit of a problem. So how do you deal with that, and which sort of alts do you normally trade to prevent this kind of scenario?
Yeah, so right now with the markets where they're at, I definitely stay more in the top 10 for when it comes to alts. I usually play cash positions with Bitcoin as my main one that I trade, and same with like Ethereum.
Yeah.
But when we do have sideways movement or channel movement, like what we've kind of been witnessing here with Bitcoin, that's the time to jump into alts. But still, my same strategy applies because of the liquidity of alts. I do not take those really big positions in it for that main reason, right? You can't get yourself out of them, or you literally move the price yourself with a $10, $20, $30,000 position. You'll literally watch the charts move on that. And so you do have to play smaller positions and then play more of them. And I will not hold any more than 3 to 4 alts at any one time because they get harder to manage. And then on alts, because they do move more volatile, usually I can accept more of like a 5 to 6% stop loss on an alt position, but the gain on it too is anywhere, near 17%, 25%, 50, 79%, wow. Kind of swings that you can get out of it. So you just have to, adjust your strategy a little bit for it and how you manage your risk.
Pretty good stuff. Thanks for that. So yeah, I mean, if you want, we can jump into one of the trading charts and maybe talk a little bit about Elliott Wave, because I'm sure it's more easily explained when we're looking at a chart, right? It's not something that you can just talk about.
Yeah, so let me go ahead and you want me to share my screen here?
Yeah, please. Yeah, if you could.
You got it.
Let's do that.
All right, so I've got TradingView as the software program that I chart on here. It's probably the best one that I really enjoy. And like I said, you're going to see me work down on more of a smaller time frame, like the 15-minute, because of my daily updates. But to give an idea of Elliott, we're going to zoom out to a 4-hour first, and we're going to take a look at just this larger count overall here, being a corrective measure. And the thing with Elliott is that it does, if you want to do really accurate, in-depth counts, it takes a lot of time. And so I always tell my viewers that I do this full time. I can sit in front of the computer for 8 hours and chart out a proper wave count and take all the proper measurements. And so, I always tell my viewers, leverage that time and that experience so that you don't have to do it, but to understand how it works at least. So with that being said, I mean, I spent over 8 hours breaking down just this wave count here in order to actually get a proper wave cycle in it and understand what it really was, rather than just looking at it from an eyesight kind of standpoint. So Elliott Wave is basically how markets move in sequence of 5 waves and then come back in corrective 3 wave cycles. That's the basic explanation of it. And so what you're going to see from every basic channel on Elliott Wave is basically just a 5-wave move like this. And there are certain rules and guidelines that fit in that you have to follow in order for this to be an actual impulse wave. And in between these motive waves, waves 1, 3, and 5 here, you have 5 waves in each of them. And then the corrective waves can be very complex. They're probably the hardest part of Elliott Wave. And so I always tell people starting out with it, master the corrections, because when you master the corrections, the impulse moves are simple. They're 5 waves. It's the corrections that have numerous outcomes to them. And so this is a great example of a potential outcome for a corrective wave for Bitcoin right here. And you're going to have...
Sorry, which chart is this? The 1-hour chart or 5? I can't...
This is a 4-hour chart for Bitcoin.
Okay.
Yep. Perfect. And this is on Coinbase. And so the number one count that we're going to see right now is going to be a WXY among Elliott Wave traders right here. And there are certain extensions that each one of these are supposed to measure out to when we use trend-based extension tools and fib retracements. So it's a very advanced trading style. It's not something that you easily grasp the very first time. And when you do try and grasp it, you're going to see a lot of misinformation out there because people tend to get misinformed and then not fully understand it and provide, misinformation. And so that's one reason I really wanted to start the YouTube channel with Elliott being my niche focus, was really to provide the more in-depth technique to it.
Right.
So, but these measurements here, one of them for a Y wave is going to be 0.618 extension, a 1-to-1 extension, or a 1.236. And so that gives us our 1-to-1 extension is right here. And then our 1.236 extension is right down here. Okay. And so this Y wave basically has the potential to come down as low as about $6,321. But the biggest thing about Elliott Wave is that you want to find confluence. And confluence just means that you want multiple indicators to mash up into one area to tell you that that's the best reversal point or best pivot point for price. Okay.
Yeah.
And so the other move that you see here is this one. And this comes into a 1-to-1 extension. And this again is just another WXY here, or an ABC. And what this basically says is that we're at a good pivot point right here. And our next pivot point, if we lose this one, is basically going to be down here at 7,400 down to about $7,000 right in here is our next pivot point if this one were to fail.
But what's the probability of that though?
Of it coming down into here?
Yeah.
I mean, probability is going to be subjective, right? Because what do we have to compare it to for probability wise? I would say, and this is why I focus more on the short-term trading, is that I can tell you the probability of this happening when this wave structure here finishes out and this wave right here. This wave right here will tell me if we can make it down into this target here. And so that's where I decide my probability from. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you need to wait for a specific point in time before you can really say it. Right. Makes sense.
It's like reading music, right? And so, and that's how I look at the charts. Is the charts from an Elliott Wave standpoint, they tell you, each wave tells you what it's going to do for the next following wave cycle. And so it's literally like a language of the charts. It's how I like to describe it.
Can you only use it in the 4-hour chart to its best? Or can you use it in, for example, a 5-minute chart as well?
Yeah, I definitely can use it in a 5-minute chart. I mean, you can use it all the way down to the 1-minute chart. It gets a little crazy, but you can definitely do it. It just depends on your trading style and what type of swings you're trying to go for. But this is a 15-minute chart, and you can still see the wave structures, right? How everything kind of flows. And this is just different types of counts within Elliott. For corrective waves, and that's why corrective waves are the best ones to master. But what it tells me here for the short term with this move up right here is it tells me two scenarios for a bull count. It says that either we can do a 1-to-1 extension of this move here, and so this is going to kind of stall out right here.
Yeah.
And then the other option is that this is, instead of a 3-wave structure, it's going to be a 5-wave structure. And we'll get a 5th wave that comes up maybe to about $9,000. And so for me right now, I played a position off of the break of this previous wave 1 here and for an extension for this 3rd wave here.
Yeah.
And so for me, if we have 2 counts and they both say that we're at least going to make it into this territory right here. And the first target was tagged at 87.17 right here, which is a Fibonacci retracement of this entire move to the downside. And so you use all of these tools in Confluence to make projections as to where you're going to land with your price and where you're going to get pivots at. And so for me personally, that tells me that, we're going to see a pivot here. We're going to see some consolidation and a little bit of accumulation here, probably some sort of a flag formation. And then Bitcoin's going to make a decision on whether or not it wants to move right up again. And if so, a really great target is going to be right about $9,000. There's a lot of confluence there.
Right.
But
where's the next resistance? Sorry.
Yeah, $9,000 is really going to be a really strong resistance zone.
So it could just bounce back down when it hits 9,000, because this growth was pretty sudden. I mean, yesterday when we spoke, it was, where were we at? 8,100 or something like that, I believe it was.
Yeah, 8,100. We were sitting right down in here. And so, yeah, it definitely moved right on up.
Yeah, it was a bit of an upswing, like a quick upswing as well. It's kind of scary, isn't it? It's kind of the equivalent of a flash crash, except it's going up. So could it come down just as fast? That's the other question.
Yeah, we like to call those Bart Simpsons in the trading world, because it basically just goes up, it shuffles over like Bart's hair, and then it just comes right back down.
Right. So basically, what you'd be doing in this sort of trade, assuming you would have entered at 8,100, you'd probably have a stop loss maybe like at 8,500, considering it's 86.40 now, or would you go even lower?
Well, I took a long position on the break of 83.42 right here.
Right.
So I'm in a long position right now. So I want it to go up. So a stop loss for me would be underneath this previous low here at 81.12.
Yeah.
So if this were to just turn back down and move past this previous low here, then I know that it's a corrective count and we would downtrend into our lower 7K targets.
Sorry, so you got in at 8,300 and your stop loss is at 8,100, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're quite safe then, because then it went down to like 82.50 or something before it took a swing upwards. I think that's what it is. I can't really see well.
Yeah, let me load this up here. So I mean, it has not. So when I bought in on this move on the upside
sorry.
here,
Okay, you didn't buy on the other one. Okay, sorry, you bought on this breakout. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So when we broke this previous high, that to me told me that this was going to be an impulse count.
Yeah.
Which means it's going to move in a 5-wave sequence. So we're probably looking at a wave 1, a 2. This is all a 3-wave. We're going to probably consolidate, correct back in up here around the 8,500 area. And then we're going to do another move to the upside here.
Yeah. And now you're good as well, because I mean, you could increase your stop loss. So for example, now with the 8,600, what would you recommend somebody would put their stop loss at?
If they bought right here, I would tell them not to buy right now.
No, sorry. I meant if they bought in like you say 8,300, 8,250, and where should they really move their stop loss considering the current price, just to kind of be safe and be in profit?
Well, if they wanted to move their stop loss above their entry price, they could move it into a take profit zone underneath, say, this previous low at 8,500. But me personally, I think that this is still going to ride up. And so I'm just keeping my stop loss down here.
At 8,100, right. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, as an Elliott Wave trader, I'm going to, and being full-time, right, I can just sit here and watch this. And if it tells me it's going to correct back deep, then I'll just exit my position up here at $8,600.
Right. And you'll still be taking profit. Yeah.
Yeah. But for somebody that can't watch the charts, they should just leave their stop loss down here and let this kind of finish riding out and give more data, because there's not a whole lot to go off of up here right now.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense. Thanks for that. And that's good, because that'll help beginners as well to kind of understand, especially if they're new to these kind of trading strategies. So that's pretty cool. What's your take on leverage trading, by the way? Do you not find that? Because I've noticed a lot of people are talking about it now. I mean, I'm not talking about gambling like 100x leverage, but more like 4x, 5x leverage. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I always use a 5x leverage. And I use Kraken Exchange to do that as a U.S. resident. So for me, I love the advantage of leverage. You just have to manage your risk accordingly, right? 5x leverage, that's kind of hard to get liquidated or be real stupid with. And that's the max you can do on Kraken. But these exchanges like BitMEX and so forth, where you can do 20x, 50x,
Bybit.
100x.
Bybit is 100x as well. And you can even short. That's pretty interesting as well. I don't know if you can do that on BitMEX. I think you can. But you can basically say, I want to short because I think it's going to short. And then you make a profit when Bitcoin dumps.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Lots of money in that. And it's one of the things that I highlight in on my channel too, is learning how to trade in any market condition. You know, because if you can learn how to short the market, then you can make money if it goes down. You can make money if it goes up. I mean, I've been trading all through the 2018 crypto winter. I was still trading and doing YouTube videos and making money, you know.
Wow, nice one. No, that's really good. And then you're sharing it with other people as well. You're not alone, so you're sharing tips and tricks and things like that. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, that's good. Now, could you please look at the Ontology USDT pair, if you don't mind, on TradingView, just to have a look at that and get your opinion on it?
Yeah, you bet. Let's go take a look here. So this is going to be on Ontology US dollar here on Binance Exchange. I'm going to go up to a higher time frame since altcoins aren't as liquid here. And we're going to take a look at a daily first to kind of get a longer term projection. And then we're going to go down into a 4-hour time frame here.
Yeah.
And the way that I like to look at this is I like to take simple basics first before we dive into Elliott counts, because with altcoins, due to the volatility of them, the wave counts, they take a little bit of time to kind of figure them out and to take all the proper measurements and so forth. And so for this video, we're just going to keep it more simple so that we don't dive into all the measurements and spend 30 minutes on breaking this down kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
the first thing that I want to kind of take a look at is I want to go from extremes on just drawing some of the basic trend lines and finding the patterns and supports and resistances. One thing that I see here is that we've created a bottom here. This looks kind of like an Adam and Eve pattern here for a reversal to the upside. And so now we've created a pivot point here. We don't know if it's the bottom, but it's a pivot point, which is a higher low to this one here. And so a couple things that I'm going to do is we're going to pull a fib retracement of this entire structure from this low to this high here and see if any major fib retracement levels stand out for support levels for us to take into consideration as we take a look at this. The other thing that I want to take a look at too is I want to acknowledge this small trend line here that we're coming up against and seeing one rejection on right here between these two previous highs, and that this is forming a bullish trading pattern. We're going to pull it like that. A bullish trading pattern, which is actually a good reversal pattern that we typically can break out of this descending wedge is what it's called. About 68% of the time we break to the upside on it when we're moving down like this. What we want to look for is at least 2 touches on each side of the trend lines here. And so that wave structure basically looks like one here, and then we get a move over here, and then we've got this third down. So there's going to be 2 counts basically, and one says that this can still get squeezed down here for one more lower touch before breaking to the upside like that.
Yeah.
And the other one says that if we zoom into this a little bit closer so that we can see here, given this candle rejection right here, we're going to pay attention to the 1-day EMA. So we have this blue line here as a 21 EMA, and it would be very strong for Ontology to close this 1-day candle on top of the blue line here. And so if we can close on top of that, we might be able to see this move here consolidate and maintain this trend line. I'm going to change the color on that. Maintain this upward trend line right here in order to break to the upside here. But if we lose this yellow line right here, we can more than likely expect us to come down into a target zone of about 51 cents for Ontology here before moving and breaking to the upside here. But it's definitely showing that it's very close to its bottoming. Given this bullish pattern right here and the fact that we've retraced to such a deep retracement level of this 5-wave structure right here. And so this 5-wave structure right here tells me that the larger trend is upwards, whereas
that's the higher probability, right?
Yes. So it increases the probability that this will break to the upside. And the first target that we would look for when this breaks this red trend line right here is going to be the 200 daily EMA.
So it needs to go over 70 cents, if I'm not mistaken, right? For it to break it.
Yeah, it would need to go over 70 cents. And so there are a couple of things that we want to find for confluence. And one of those is going to be the horizontal resistance that we're going to face along the way, moving up to these targets, and then also the fib retracement levels. And so when we make this break happen, whether it happens right here or down at near 51 cents, that should be a good entry point. If we see it drop down there, this would be a good buy point right here. You can see all the support level over here too, in that zone over here. All of that was a good accumulation zone. So we're going to see that right here as well for a move to the upside. And then we're going to find some confluence by going like and pulling a fib from, I'm going to say that we've had the low end right there. So we're going to pull it from right here. And a couple things that we see here is, let me pull that again, top to bottom. And we've got the 0.236, the 382 right here. So probably that 382 is going to give us the best confluence, and it hits the top of that trend line again too. And that EMA is going to kind of roll upwards a little bit like this by the time we make it up there. And so we're going to have the best confluence right around in that zone there, which matches up with all of this resistance that we're going to be facing as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's how I would be looking at Ontology from just a technical standpoint without doing any Elliott Wave counts in it.
Wow, nice one, nice one. Very nicely explained, and quite easier to understand for beginners as well, rather than just going very deep into it. So thanks for that. Now, is it possible by any chance to have a look at the KuCoin BTC pair on the Sol BTC pair on KuCoin?
I wasn't able to find it on TradingView here.
No, you'll have to go to the exchange, unfortunately, because it's not on TradingView.
Let's let me pull this up here.
I'm not sure if you can use your strategy within it because you can't get access to all the different tools on there. It is much more limited.
Okay,
so that's the other thing with these alts. I mean, did you notice that every time Bitcoin pumps, they dip, and then if Bitcoin dumps, they dip even more, and then if Bitcoin trades sideways, then they tend to get an upswing.
It's true. So it's hard to catch it. One thing that I have noticed is alts that have USD pairings tend to do a little bit better when Bitcoin is pumping.
Yeah.
And when Bitcoin is dropping, Bitcoin pairs tend to do a little bit better. Don't get me wrong, they still go down, but if you can, like Kraken offers like maybe I think 6 altcoins that you can short. And I know BitMEX offers a couple dozen, I believe, that you can short. And so if you can do that and you can short altcoins, then man, there is so much money to be made in shorting an altcoin because when Bitcoin dumps, they dump like twice as much, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you multiply your percentage gains basically.
Uh-huh.
So how is this looking for you then?
So we're going to kind of zoom out here and take a look at this big here. So this is definitely an accumulation zone here, right? We've got a really good support level in from where our all-time highs were at up here. Maybe this is when doesn't have any more data past that. So I don't know if this is when it hit the exchange and it just dumped. That's very possible.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah. So if that's the case, right, we've set in a high here, then a lower high, and now the reality is that we would be able to create our next attempt is going to be an attempt that does try and go to this larger trend line, right?
So because close to the 1,000 sats, maybe.
Yeah, maybe a little bit higher. I see a lot of horizontal resistance right here as well. So I'm going to pull that and then give me a sec. I'll zoom in here in just a minute.
Yeah, sure.
Right there and there. So, all right. So these, we've got 2 resistance zones right here then basically that kind of match up. I like the confluence that we see up here at about 1385 sats. And I would say that this structure right here, so that's going to be a corrective measure move, and then this is definitely corrective here. But this move right here, and it looks like I can use the same tools here, so I'm going to just take a couple of measurements, and we do hit a 1.618 on that. So this could potentially be impulsive, which means that we would be looking at a retracement level where we've got a good pivot here, right? But the question is, will it come lower? So we're going to take a retracement level of this entire move here. And it looks like we kind of pivot off a front run of the 786 a little bit.
Yeah, that big dump that you see there, by the way, when it had that big spike and it came right back down, the reason for that was actually due to news. So there was some news about a delay, and because of that, everything just dumped on the day. So that's all in one day, basically, that big dump that you see there.
Yeah, that's nasty right there. So
it seems that news play a big part in manipulating the price.
Yeah, and especially with not a whole lot of liquidity in these alts right now, right? Some of the major players that are invested in them can definitely be pulling larger funds out and create a lot of those big dumps based off of that news too, right? Yeah. So with this move here, I'd be more cautious of it, to be honest, because one, it doesn't look as good as a trade as Ontology does. Right now, we're definitely correcting back. I would say that a good entry zone on this would be back on this trend line here. We've got this support level here. I'm going to change up the...
So that's what, around 550 sats? 520, 530, no?
Yeah, right back here, about 570 to 550 sats. Seems like a much better entry. But if we lose that support level right there, then it's just going to probably move back down towards a double bottom type of scenario here. One thing that we want to be cautious of is that this move as from right here, I got to change that color. That and this here, this is a lower low to here. And we've got a lower high here. So the reality is we've just created basically a short-term channel that says that the trend is more in this consolidative channel state right here. So this would be the median line of these yellow channels, right? We kind of so it's a good area for us to try and bounce off of. But the reality is, given the move that we saw right here, right there, this could do something very similar in that sense, where we kind of come in there, tread up this very slowly, and end up breaking down to it to retesting this bottom again. So it doesn't look as healthy or as confident of a trade as the Ontology one does. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And it's also the lack of liquidity, right? It's the type of thing that you can't really use a stop loss with, depending on how many tokens you've got as well, isn't it? Because as you can see in the buy orders, I mean, there are some, they're like 75,000, but the majority are quite thin, right? 3,000, 2,000. So we're talking small amounts. We're talking a couple of $100 in each one. Yeah,
it's not very much, that's for sure.
But in a bullish scenario, I mean, you're looking at retesting what, 1,200, 1,300 sats?
On a bullish scenario, if we can break this previous high here, I would be looking for let me pull an extension on it too real quick. I'm going to assume that that's our previous bottom there. And I'm looking for a 1.618. And so that puts us up at 1312. Right about there. So we've got a pretty good gap here, right in between 1326 to 1400 Satoshis. If we break this previous high of 882, then that would be the bullish scenario. But we'd need to break this, and this move up would need to be impulsive. So it'd need to work in those 5-wave counts. So if it worked in just a 3-wave count, then I would say it's coming back down, and we would fail to break that high.
Wow.
So, I mean, it can get a lot more in-depth and advanced or whatnot, but, I'm trying to just kind of keep it right at
to keep it simple, basically.
Yeah. So,
cool.
I mean, I like Ontology better. Ontology looks like it's setting up for a better move.
Cool. And from a day trading perspective, would you say Ontology as well, right?
I would say Ontology as well. Yeah, you can take a good short position on it if it breaks that yellow trend line. You've got a good entry zone down at 51 cents if it comes down to the bottom there. And you can play the breakout on the wedge too. And that would offer a good move up to as high as about a dollar or even 70 cents. There's going to be some stopping points along the way. But overall, breaking that structure would offer a good run up for it. So long as Bitcoin doesn't get in the way in the middle of it.
Right. No, that's good. Good explanation. Thank you for your input on that. And if we can switch back to the regular screen, please. Okay, there we go. We're back to normal now.
Go.
So thank you for that. So now as a last question before we end this interview is what is one thing in life that you truly desire?
I truly desire just being the best version of myself. I'm very focused on self-development and just building my dream life and helping people build theirs and helping them self-improve. So that's just something that I'm very, very passionate about and that I really want for myself and others.
Nice. Very positive and powerful. Thanks for that. Great. Thank you for this interview and thank you for joining. It was really good. Thank you for sharing your technical expertise, and I'm looking forward to having you on again in the near future to talk about more trading and depending on the price movement of the Bitcoin price and of course altcoins as well. Thank you very much.
Definitely. Maybe we can. Thank you so much for having me on, and maybe in the next one we can kind of follow up on this previous video and see if any of these targets even went to where we were thinking they would.
Definitely. And don't forget to check out Crypto Hippo's YouTube channel in the description below. You will be able to see that and access it, and make sure to subscribe. Also, please hit the like if you enjoyed the video. I'd much appreciate it. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.